and I'm going to be co-hosting with.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Tosin Balogun. I'm co-hosting today with Minor. I work at the LA County Office of Education.
Thank you, Tosin. And so Growing Prevention was sponsored by BHS South Bay Prevention and is in partnership with MAD, Mothers Against Drug Driving, ADAP, Asian American Drug Abuse Program, Friday Night Live Partnership, or LA County FNL, and SBC3, South Bay Communities Creating Change. So what is Growing Prevention? If you haven't been here before, welcome. And if you've been here, then you've probably heard this a bunch of times, but Growing Prevention is an online workshop series via Zoom designed to develop substance abuse professionals, community members, elected officials, law enforcement agencies, and parents on topics that will enhance their careers, communities, and homes through education, connection, and resources. And so today's presentation is titled LGBTQ+, Their Allies in Substance Misuse. And so we have 4 lovely presenters, and we're going to go on ahead and read their bios. So Graciela Rodriguez is a health educator for the Teach Project. In this role, she has been more than just a health educator. She has gone beyond to make sure our person served needs are taken care of every day. Every day working with the person served is a beginning of a new chapter, a new journey to a better start. Okay, Tosin, you can take it away.
Just a second, bear with me. I'm going to read the second bio right now. I don't know how my screen got closed out, so just a moment. Sorry about that. The next person I want to introduce is Ray Ruiz. Ray Ruiz is a health educator and senior member of the Teach Project.
Our third presenter is Alexandra McGee. Alexandra McGee is a prevention case manager for BHS/Adam 2 project. She is an African-American trans-identified woman who is a living example of God's restoration and redemption. She is a recovered substance misuser through the 12-step process of recovery, for which she is grateful. She recently earned an associate's degree in human services/addiction studies with more than 30 years in the field of transgender awareness and education. In 2003, while working for Minorities AIDS Project as a risk and harm reduction specialist, she facilitated a transgender sensitivity 101 training for the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. Today, she is a provider who was once a consumer of the very services that we offer, which lends her insight to better understand clients' needs. Her goal and desires are to connect with as many trans-identified, gender non-conforming, and TGI persons as possible who are living under the challenges of self-identifying and acceptance atop of combating the stigmas that society has placed upon them. She aims to change the narrative by implementing data that addresses the needs of her community via innovative cultural competency, advocacy, and determination.
And our final fourth presenter, Francisco Perez, is the outreach specialist for the Adam Project. He has worked with the LGBTQ and homeless community for more than 20 years. He started in the early 90s in the streets of Hollywood doing outreach to male, female, and trans sex workers. Francisco was part of the HIV prevention and intervention movement in the 1990s at LA Shanti, or LASHANTI, Believe, Being Alive, AHF, Altamed, Bienestar, the Center, Hollywood, and more. So welcome our presenters. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to stop sharing and take it away.
Well, hello everyone. I am Ray. So nice to be with you all. One question: is my team gonna appear in the screen as I talk, or? Okay, yeah. Got it. Oh, I see them. Hi everyone. Well, so happy to be here, and we'll begin. So we'll start off with a brief description of what the Atom 2 project is, and for that I'll hand it over to Francisco.
Okay, so the Atom Project. So we are. I'm gonna tell you briefly. So we kind of like do outreach mainly in the streets in Long Beach, South Central Los Angeles, in Skid Row. We understand that a lot of the clients that we serve, they go back and forth from downtown to downtown Los Angeles to downtown Long Beach. So how do we do outreach? We do it in a very unique way because we go out at night. We meet them where they are, usually at the bus stop, in the train stop, and also in the shelter. Uh, the target population that we go for is African American and Latino men under 30. So what do we do with them? We try to enroll them in our program so they can get help reducing drugs or alcohol, and therefore, if they need referrals, that's what we do. We also try to keep them engaged because we do a lot of activities that are more uh, geared towards their needs. They're like psychosocial activities, and a lot of them have to do with empowering them, empowering their uh, culture, their background, their sexual identity. So that's really what we do in a nutshell.
Hmm. Thank you, Francisco. And to follow up with that, the TEACH project derives from the Atom project, and we deal with 18 to 24, so it's like a few years younger, and we also deal with prevention, and we utilize community outreach, which we believe that if we help members of our community and those members become peers, and they'll be able to assist their fellow peers by bringing them to our events, to our interventions. So so yeah, that's the Teach and Atom project. We're a big happy family. So for today's workshop, these are our 4 objectives that we will be covering. Number 1 is to recognize how gender identity issues result in increase of substance misuse, increase awareness of being unstably housed, impact substance misuse, understand how substance misuse exacerbates mental health diagnosis or co-occurring disorders. And lastly, we will define support groups, support systems, and interventions. Here we go. So we're going to start off with this. Mental health problems and substance use disorders sometimes occur together. This is because of a few reasons. Number 1, certain illegal drugs can cause people with an addiction to experience one or more symptoms of mental health issues and co-occurring disorders. Mental health problems can sometimes lead to alcohol or drug use, as some people with a mental health problem may misuse these substances as a form of self-medication. Mental and substance use disorders share some underlying causes, including changes in brain composition, genetic vulnerabilities, and early exposure to stress or trauma. So we're going to cover a little bit of types of trauma in a moment. And here's a quick fact that more than 1 in 4 adults living with serious mental health problems also has a substance use problem. I'm gonna hand it over to Gracie.
Hi everyone. So first off, my name is Gracie. My pronouns are she, her, hers. That's something that we are also going to talk about later on. So first thing first, that I would like to add is the testimonies. And those testimonies are from our present serve, that they share how sometimes, by referring to self-medication is substituting their medication for substances. They feel that they have a better lifestyle being consuming alcohol or other substances rather than medication. And later on, we're going to talk about new terms as far as what we use when a person serve uses substances instead of medication.
Okay. So we're gonna begin with this. This is our first objective, which is understand how substance misuse worsens mental health diagnosis. Okay. So for the first part, for number 1 and 2, as Gracie mentioned, our person served substitute substances for prescriptions. We were discussing how sometimes our person served, and we just to backtrack, we don't call them clients, we call them person served. That's something within the Adam and Teach project. So for number 1 and 2, as Gracie mentioned, a few of our persons served to substitute their medication for substance usage, and that's Gracie, would you like to do you have something to go along with that?
Yes, so before we knew the term as dual diagnosis, when there was substance misuse and and prescription, and now it's with a mental illness and substance, and now it's known as co-occurring disorders, and it's something that a lot of professionals would need to know, the new term as far as when a person served has mental health diagnosis, also problems with substance as well.
3, 4, and 5 get taken advantage of. Francisco can share some situations in which our person served due to substance misuse. It leads to affecting mental health or making it worse.
Yeah. Well, like we all see with our clients, and this has always been an issue with the gay and lesbian and transgender and questioning clients that we see. They get taken advantage of because in one area they're trying to survive, and they have a substance abuse issue, and also they if they prescribe medicine, so they are very vulnerable because a lot of times out on the street people take advantage of them, either by offering them the drugs or the pills. So they are a very high risk. A lot of times they don't know how to say no because they've been abused so much, and also because they need maybe a place to stay, or maybe they need that money to survive, because everything is sort of like a trigger effect. It's not just the issue of the drug. It goes deeper than that. And then on top of that, if you are a youth, because I'm gonna talk about youth because that's the population that we work with, under 30. So if you're a youth that have an addiction, and then on top of that you have probably a mental disorder, then it's so easy for you to be taken advantage of on the street. And therefore you're not able to say no because you're not there. And that also causes more problems because that's when they get STDs and they get HIV. And then when they seek for help from law enforcement or many other agencies that are not familiar with the population, they're called crazy or they're not really seen as a, you know, they're not seen as they're worth the time or they're not taken seriously. So we see that over and over and over and over. And unfortunately, that's a reality that our youth have to live with. When they come to us, we don't judge them and then we understand that um, a lot of times taking drugs and misusing the medicine is not necessarily, uh, we don't want to blame them because maybe that's the only option they had to survive. So it's a coping mechanism they learn. And when they come here, we try to either role model to them better ways and sort of like peel each layer of the issue. So that's pretty much in a nutshell.
Thank you. And here we just added 3 types of trauma. There's acute trauma that results from a single incident, chronic trauma, which means it's repeated, prolonged, such as domestic violence or abuse, and complex trauma, which is exposure to varied and multiple traumatic events in an invasive interpersonal nature. I know Francisco covered a few examples of just how that can look to our person served. So next, I actually should have started like this. My name is Ray. He, him, his are my pronouns. And I say that to say this, that this section is to recognize how gender identity issues result in increase of substance misuse. So it's really important to use the proper pronouns to understand the difference between gender identity and gender expression. For that, I would like to ask Miss Alexandra if you would like to come in this part.
Good morning. My name is Alexandra. My friends call me Alexis. My pronouns are she, hers, and hers. A lot of things that are happening when we try to reach the transgender population. There's a lot of ambivalence and there's also some intimidation because more often than not, many agencies will come seeking the support for the numbers from our community. And then when the funds are released, there is no benefit. We don't see a benefit in our community. So when we talk about using pronouns, I'm of the mindset that in the same way that we introduce ourselves as clinicians, professionals, we add that extra piece what our pronouns are. So I was thinking under the sense that when we take in clients to change the dynamics to make it not be an uncomfortable position, to add that little piece to the sign-in sheet when they put in their name and all of their demographics, to also put in their preferred pronouns, because that better assesses us with referrals, which we'll get to another part in the segment about referring trans people to gay and lesbian support systems, because depending on how they identify is everything. So sometimes, because I know scores of transgender people who still behind stigmas that have been placed on us forever, they still identify as gay. So for them to go to a gay or lesbian support group is nothing. But then you have the transgender community, which I think it should be LGB and it should be T, because within the trans community, we have LG and the B. We have trans men, we have trans women, we have that are bisexual, some identify as heterosexual, and some are just gay. They have relations with each other. So that is a dynamic that I figure as a trans person, we can change the narrative by listening to what this particular community needs and then act accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alexis. And so here, these are just a few examples of different coping mechanisms that we have covered, which are alcohol and drugs, as they're utilized as coping mechanisms. This is another topic of promiscuity and survival sex. So the difference, understanding the difference, and knowing the signs and the symptoms. So I wanted to touch this term here, which is minority stress, which is the access and harmful stress often experienced by individuals from stigmatized social categories due to their minority position. And so our population is, this is one of their, this is a stressor that our population can identify with and that go through. And here is just an example of how a minority stressor may look like. Here under minority stress, you can see different types like victimization, work, school, daily discrimination, family rejection, peer rejection, religious exclusion, and so forth. So these are the pathways, which is the rejection expectations, internalized homophobia, concealment, rumination, emotion dysregulation, unassertiveness, impulsivity. And so where you see principles of esteem, it's where help would, how we would help combat these stressors. So that's for example, empower assertive communication, restructure minority stress cognitions, build supportive relationships. And so that's the type of work that's what we're focusing on. That's what we help our persons serve, help guide them to seek and to empower them. And so without this guidance or help and proper care, these are a few mental health issues that they might that they experience, which is depression, anxiety, substance use, and a few risky behaviors. HIV risky behaviors, HIV specific, or status not disclosed, and not getting tested, and so forth. So we help them, guide them through these situations. But there's a certain way to help a person, because as we're gonna touch right now, not everyone is part of a cookie cutter, and not every the way you address someone and you help someone is not the way that you're gonna help everyone else. So this is what we're gonna touch in a little bit. So as Francisco covered earlier, increase awareness of being unstable health impacts substance misuse, so substance misuse can affect stable housing, the safety is compromised, and there's a dysfunction in home. Dysfunction in home breeds abuse. So I know, Gracie, you wanted to say something about this here?
Yeah, something when it comes to the piece that you have nature versus nurture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of the times when we hear that term, we think more like internal. And with our person serve, what we've noticed is how some of the times society itself, it's a better environment and a better feel of home compared to like someone like within the household. With like one example is could be a mother or a father. You would think that there would be like more positiveness within the home, and sometimes it's not. It's someone outside, you know. And I know some Miss Alexis can also add something to that as well. Miss Alexis?
Thank you. Well, we were in discussion in preparation of this forum, if you will. We discussed precipitating events, with regards to um, what causes when we talk about substance misuse affecting stable housing, compromising their safety. So you have to wonder sometimes as professionals, as clinicians, what is the precipitating event that caused these people to, and for example, one of Grace's persons served, um, who does identify as trans, who has a parent that is trans, but that is not accepted from parent to trans, which is causing this young person, the person served, trauma, stress. And so these are some of the things that we look at because more often than not, what we're finding is what the person served aren't getting from home. They're seeking outside of the home, and that sometimes is hazardous. Thank you.
Right. And as I mentioned earlier, not every case is a cookie cutter. And so in this case, as Miss Alexis and Gracie mentioned, there was a person served that identified as trans, which had their parent was also trans, and they were not accepted, and so we had to help them through that as well. So as we were saying, so nature versus nurture, and so with situations like that, our persons serve look out in the community to receive help, and so we try to help guide them through that. So and then right here, define support groups, support systems, and interventions. We, as I mentioned earlier, not every situation is a cookie cutter, and not every, there's a certain way that we have to help our person serve. Sometimes by trying to help our person serve, if we're not aware of certain things, we might actually, end up hurting them. And so these are a few situations that where a person serve might feel that way. But I'll hand it over to Miss Alexis, and she can speak a little bit about this.
Okay, so when we were talking about negative experience with healthcare services, I'm going to disclose a personal without, going into I'm going to share a story. What often has happened to me, being transgender is one thing, being HIV positive is totally different. So it changes the dynamics when you come into healthcare, seeking healthcare, and everything is fine, and they're talking to you, and then when you share your status, then it's like a chill in the room, and then all of a sudden now you feel the need to put on gloves. You need to protect yourself as if now I'm no longer a patient or a client. Now I'm something that you worry about. That on the other end, on the receiving end, is traumatizing, because that will discourage me to ever come back, or at least to that place. So we have to find a place to where we can identify the client's need in a non-judgmental way, um, so that we don't discourage them and instead empower them. We talk about being transgender, being referred to a gay and lesbian support group. Again, these are some of the things that we can tackle up front. If there was a slot for people to address their preferred pronouns in the front, that would help us as case managers to navigate their referrals, because there are many, again, like I say, in the trans community, we do have gay, lesbian, and bisexual trans people. So some trans people still, behind the stigmas that were placed on us 30, 40 years ago, some trans people still identify as gay. So would that be a negative reinforcement? No, because some help is better than no help. However, it is a conundrum, if you will, in trying to better assess the client. So I just think that it is necessary, it is vital that we are cognizant of the client's needs. If we are client-centered, then the client's needs, who better to tell us how to treat them than the client? Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Ray, can I also add?
Yes.
So it's very important, you know, to be aware of the person surfer you're working with. I actually had to go to Miss Alexis one day because of the same reason. I said, Miss Alexis, how come some of our person serve are not talking to me? Am I doing something wrong? You know, and we, as professionals, we don't have to take it personal. It's just the way that you approach the person served. And out of experience, I have seen that you have to have two different support groups for our person served, especially if they're a trans community. You cannot put also lesbian and gay person served within the same group. You want to add to that, Miss Alexis, as well?
No, I think you said it best. It's just in understanding and recognizing first how the client identifies instead of assuming, because that does more harm than help. So it is necessary to recognize, who your clients are and how they represent themselves. Because we have to remember, gender identity is not an expression, are two different things.
All right. Thank you. And so there are quite a few support groups, support systems, and interventions look quite different. We have to look at different components of our person served. A lot of the times, our person served don't have a family to count on because of a few, like we mentioned earlier, a few stressors that occur, which is like a family support and so forth. So a few support systems that have happened, for example, in the past, I know we had house mothers, we had houses. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the show Pose on Netflix. It exemplifies a way of an idea of how that looked in the past, and so with that in mind, we, for example, in the Teach project and the Atom project, we created a ball this year, which was this centered behind this idea, and we have our honorary house mother, Miss Alexandra, and we utilized that that moment to make it fun and exciting, but it was a health centered. So we got together with many providers, many organizations, we received so much support. And of course, we're planning to do it next year. You know, if things are a little less um, uh, uh, social distancing. Yes, I don't know if Miss Alexis, you want to go into explain what how that was being a house mother and utilizing that space at the health center.
Thank you. More often than not, I am a product of the 80s when the house scene, when we were getting, um, basically the concept of houses were for people who had been youth and adolescents that had been ostracized from their family because of their lifestyle choices. So again, like I said, that nurture versus nature, what they couldn't get at home, we found the ingenuity to find a mother, to find aunties, to find sisters, and to find brothers within our community to help us understand who we were and how to empower us and how to fit into this society. So that was really the essence of housing. And and where they're not always positive, I like to think that it was something to the positive because for many of us, it kept us out of direct danger. You know, during the AIDS pandemic in the 80s and the 90s, it was way worse than this COVID-19 because there was no cure. You know, I thank God that I survived and I'm thriving as a result of being infected, but I'm still here. But that took a lot of trial and error. You know, it was through empowerment and education through my healthcare providers who listened to what I had to say, who took into account the things that I was saying as a trans identified person, you know, good and bad, and all that in the middle. So, it, again, you know, being cognizant of where your people, where your clients or persons served, where they come from, it is important to ask these. Sometimes they seem like tough questions, but you can ask one question that can hold a plethora. It can take on a plethora in itself. And Francisco wants to say something.
Yeah, I want to touch a little bit on the screen, which is here advocacy for the LGBTQ people. So, how this, how do that look like at the Adam Project? I think that we have a very unique approach to that because um, our community, because we're a new community, and a lot of the youth right now that are there listening or questioning, they really don't have a lot of role models. So we are that role model. That generation from the 90s and the ones before who are like 30s and 40s, we are that peer that is there with them because they've never had a role model to look up to. So we try to engage them in our activities. That's why we call them psychosocial activities because they never had that interaction with other uh, role models in a healthy way because they don't know how. There is not a lot out there still as a community that uh, that they can draw from. So it's our responsibility as leaders of the community to advocate for them and to teach them with our sample. So in a way, we're inventing as we go, and we're not perfect, but we went through this problem. We went through this with discrimination. We went through a lot of the same stress that they're going through, and by being there with them is important because you're creating a reference how to cope with the stress, how to cope. How do you do it? You know, how do you not get HIV positive? How do you avoid getting into drugs or being abused out on the street? So that's a very important approach that we take, and I feel that we've been very successful because we are building community. Our support groups go beyond a support group because when you say a support group, that means you are only supporting one specific issue. But with the LGBTQ support groups, it's a lot of things that permeate at the same time. So you wanna be conscious of that. And part of it is leading, having those other group members that they can share their experiences, and also the group leaders also have to be a person that is being there, done that. That's been really, really helpful.
Um, Thank you, Francisco. What do I like to also add here in both of our projects? We have what we call our peer advocates. And most of our peer advocates, that's what they do. They share their stories with our person served. They demonstrate that change can happen, and some of the times it takes self-empowerment to make that change, and that's what drives a lot of our person served to these projects and also to other agencies, because they see someone that went maybe through similar experiences, similar traumas or events, and they were able to lift themselves up for a better life or a better future.
Right. And in the idea of the house ball, the house that we did, it was back in the 80s. The houses existed for to bring in, the children that needed protection, that needed guidance through certain specific situations. And so what we did is we brought together a lot of healthcare providers to attend the event. So we had persons served as well as providers. And so, as you can see, our second point is include clinicians in trans-specific or LGBTQ specific support groups. And that was a great way to connect everyone, bringing two cultures together, if you would say. And yes, we mentioned about our pre-advocacy. And everything is to build trust and teaching resilience. And so we're here. This concludes our presentation. These are our contact information. We are very active on social media. Social media is one of the ways that we utilize to reach out to our person servant, to our people in the community. And so we also have we utilize a few of these outlets to create shows, live shows, and to educate and empower our community as well. So
I wanted to add something real quick. For those professionals that are watching this video, I wanted to emphasize that every professional has a unique way in approaching clients. We all have it inside. If you come across as a person who's willing to help, they will respond to that. Uh, we all that are in the field of helping other people, it's inside us. You just find that voice. There is nobody better than other. It's like everybody has a unique way in that talent. And I want to thank everybody on the other side who is also doing that, just like we're doing it for so many times, because we all in this together. We all gonna make a change. We all part of the change, and sooner or later we're gonna come across the people that we're gonna help, and you'll find yourself how, because like I said, everybody has their own unique talent to teach and to share.
okay. And that concludes our presentation. Anything else?
Would you all like to take questions right now, if there's any questions?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So if you happen to have any questions, if you can go ahead and raise your hand or take some time and type it in the chat box. We'll wait a couple seconds. to see if
And
there's
actually, while we do that, uh, team, I know you all mentioned that you wanted to ask folks who were on today, what are some things that your COVID-19 question? So maybe if we could have one of you ask the question and then folks can raise their hands and share.
Of course.
Sure. So we're asking everyone, what are you doing to cope right now with this crisis of COVID-19?
So if we have some folks who are willing to share, if you could please raise your hand.
We also have a question already in the chat. So the question is from Alex. The question is, do you encounter a lot of tobacco use among LGBTQ plus among their substance misuse?
Most definitely we do. Do you want to add a little bit more about that piece, Miss Alexis?
I just would say that in the same way we talk about co-occurrence or dual diagnosed, so is tobacco with alcohol or drugs. I have found that a lot of persons served normally don't smoke, but under the influence, they do everything. So, and tobacco is one of those, what we say, it's the least expensive legal form of substance. I mean, because if you never smoked before and you smoked a cigarette, you'd definitely be high, so it just kind of goes without saying. Yes, I would say yes.
Also, what I've seen that with the older people, they smoke more, but the youngsters are doing a lot of the vaping and a lot of the like weed. That's why the weed shops are so popular. And but definitely I see older people like smoking tobacco. Not so much I personally with the clients that I see with tobacco. More like I said, weed.
Okay, and we have another question from Richard that says, is there any data on LGBTQ plus and substance use online?
I know this. I wanted to go back, for example, to our very first, one of our first slides here, which is more than one in four adults living with serious mental health problems also has a substance use problem. So what we're saying is substance misuse is not, there is no race or gender tied to it. So substance misuse is can be affect anybody. And so I know Ms. Alexis, you wanted to add something about this?
Yes. To respond to the question, I'm trying to, are there any data on the LGBTQ and substance use? I don't specifically know for the LGBT. I do, however, know that the USTS is, it stands for United States Transgender Survey. You can Google it, and they have surveys that there's a lot of information. I apologize that I didn't include this link to the slide. But there is a lot of information with regards to all types of substances, because in the trans community, there's also a concern when we talk about substance misuse. Estrogen in the trans community is often misused, and there are harmful side effects like blood clots, osteoporosis, diabetes, these things where a lot of girls, because they aren't they aren't accessible to healthcare, so they buy bootleg hormones. You know, the thing is, you know, you go to Tijuana, you find somebody. So I don't know if any of you have heard of this, but there is a lot of bootleg estrogen that is being sold in the transgender community, and it does have harmful side effects. So with that, I have found data at the USTS.org.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank
Oh,
you.
we're in Long Beach. We are in Long Beach. I'm answering another question. Yes, we are in Long Beach.
Are there any other questions for the panel right now? Okay, well, thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to wrap up with starting to share my screen. These slides will be emailed out. Of course, we always follow up with an email, so you'll get their contact information and the slides if you haven't taken it down already. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now.
Actually, we have one more question that was privately sent to me.
Okay.
So when does someone ask about someone's identification? So like pronouns or like their identity in general.
I believe that pronoun preference, preferred pronouns should be asked in the intake and on the onset of the interview, because that way that gives you much more needed information without you having to assume. Because you can't assume that a client, if a person served comes in and they are obviously dressed in something that is opposite to how they identify, you can't assume. I know, again, I said before, I know scores of trans people who still identify under the rainbow of gay and lesbian. So it's always good to ask up front, you know, in the same way that I introduce myself and I always give you my preferred pronoun, that lessens an offense later on because it's already been said up front. Does that make sense?
Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen. So I want to give a special thanks to our presenters today. We really appreciate you taking the time to share information with us, a lot of good info. We're going to send the post-test link in the chat box. So if you can take that, it would be great. We'll also send the evaluation. It will also be emailed to you, but if you want to go ahead and get it done now, you can feel free to do that. So can we give a round of applause or use your reaction emoji for our presenters? And if you have any questions, thank you. If you have any questions, you can email Jen at the South Bay Prevention Gmail right there. And then we have a few upcoming workshops. Jen is leading a public speaking workshop part 2, Speak Up, tomorrow. And then we have drug trends coming up. And we did just release recently, I think it went out yesterday or this past weekend, the 3rd week of workshops. So the registration closes on Thursday. So if you haven't already signed up, please take the time to sign up before we close the registration. And thank you again for joining us. Hope everyone has a good rest of the day. And if, I don't know if the panel wants to hang out if anybody else has questions right now, or we'll see.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'll also add for the folks who are still on for tomorrow, just get ready because it will be interactive again, and everyone has homework if you're participating tomorrow. So please make sure you send me your photos so then that way we can use them tomorrow, because that is what we need in order for the activity to go well. So with that, thanks again to everyone who participated, and for the presenters, if you could stay on and Tosin, you can, thanks.
Thank you.
Everyone have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cool. All right, so we are going to debrief. We're going to debrief real quick. So we just want to find out from you all, how did you think it went? How did it feel presenting?
It actually went good. I mean, to me, I think it went well.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed working with my team, and I mean, we always work well together, and you know, it was fun, a lot of fun.
Thank you guys for the opportunity. This was wonderful. I look forward to the next.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Francisco?
Yeah, it's nice. I like it. I actually like what you do. I like your support. I
I'm
hear
sorry,
Jen.
what did you say?
I actually like the way you kind of like go over things before. I like the way you manage it. You're on top of it. Thank you, Jen.
It is a team effort. So I definitely have to give a shout out to Minor and Roberta, who are on my team.
And also,
And thank you, Minor and Towson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
our partners like Tosin and Jeannie and Melissa, everyone has really stepped up to help create this, to develop the structure. So I'm excited that you all have 3 more workshops. So I know we have some name changes. We have some name changes for some folks as far as who will be presenting. And you now had your first experience doing it. And so we're supposed to do your check-in for your next workshop, or was it for your next? Yeah, for your next workshop yesterday. However, we decided to do another host check-in so we could go over the slides. So we will need to do a check-in for your next workshop. So, and that's just your presenter check-in to really talk about the types of things you all want for your workshop, want to happen in your workshop, so we can make sure everything is set up properly. I know yesterday it was asked about the possibility of doing a poll. So that's also something that can be discussed there as well. I definitely feel like the information that you all shared was great. And I think folks really wanted to hear the information or get the information. And so I just say, you know, keep it coming. I think it's going to be important for you all to, you know, once you figure out what each presentation is going to look like, or your slides are going to look like, for you all to really talk about that and to go through the flow, because that's one of the things that we've seen just in general with presentations when there are multiple people, is just being able to practice the flow so everything transitions well. I think that you all did a great job today. The one thing I will say, Gracie, for some reason there was an echo and some feedback when you were presenting, and I'm not really sure why that was. If you had it open on like your computer and your phone, then there's a possibility that that was the reason why. But I'm not sure what the echo was about.
I honestly don't know. I mean, maybe because I'm like next to Miss Alexis, close to her computer, but I mean, we're still distant away.
I think we can hear it. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, so that might be it, because you all are so close, and because her sound is coming through, that it might be causing the echo. So we'll just need to figure out that for next time, so we can get it squared away.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Anybody have anything else?
Not for me.
Okay. Well, then we could just stop there. We don't have to sit and know. But thank you all very much. Again, we appreciate you, and we're excited for your next workshop. We know the title is LGBTQ plus trauma informed care. So Minor will reach out to try and get the folks who are going to be on that workshop to meet so we can talk about what you all need logistically and then move forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
But I will say one of the things that we definitely need this week is if you could send us the objectives for that workshop, then that would be great. And I know that let me see, because we have, so I know Ray is going to be doing, maybe doing the workshop for this next one. And then I see George, Sylvia, and Romeo. So we will need short bios for them as well. And then also photos. So if you all can start working on that now, that would actually help us greatly. Getting their bios, their photos, and then just making sure you send us your objectives. And then we will also need 5 pre and post questions for that. So the most important thing this week, however, is really the objective. So our evaluator can work on your evals.
Okay.
So for Ray and myself, Jen, the bios, they can stay the same, right?
Yes. Yeah, any other questions?
So just to follow up, is there like from Minor or Tosin, is there something that you feel we can work on, or that, you know, of course time management would be one, but as far as how this presentation went?
I think it was fine. I think you all were able to kind of stagger who was speaking, and you found a way to pass it. Like, oh, Gracie, do you want to say something? Or so I think on my end it was fine. I can't think of anything.
Okay.
I think for me, one of my biggest worries was kind of like one person is going to be controlling the entire presentation, but how are you going to like know who's going to do what essentially? But I think y'all did a really good job just being like, okay, I think Gracie can talk about this, and Gracie just stepping in immediately. Like,
Right.
I thought overall the flow was pretty good. In terms of improvement, I can't really think of anything at the moment, but if I do think of something, I'll email y'all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll
Yeah,
take that as a good thing, guys.
Yeah.
I think we just need to get you all on sooner, so then that way you all can be set up and ready to go. I'm not sure what happened with the links, because you all should have received an individual email from Zoom with the with your own unique link. So I think we'll just need to figure that out for the next time. But maybe what we can do, Minor, for the next presenter check-in is have it set up the same way where we have the registration link for them so they can receive a unique link, and then we can see if the same thing occurs.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So with that, thank you all very much. I appreciate you, and we appreciate you for doing a great job. Sorry, I'm not looking at the screen. I'm typing in this password stuff. So we appreciate you doing such a great job, and we look forward to the next one.
All right.
Thank you,
we'll see you all.
Jen.
Bye. Have a
You're
good
welcome.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minor.
Bye. Take
Taking
care.
time.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. See you, Ray. See you,
Bye.
Gracie.
Bye.
Cool. Am I frozen?